Social Media, Public Enemy Number One. B. Nicole Hunt, April 30th, 2014, Queen's University of Charlotte. In the last 10 years, social media has moved from being an exclusive college kids or Generation Y fad to an entity that has transformed the way the general population interacts with one another. Facebook went from being an intercollegiate site for Harvard University students to being an all-out advertising, networking, and gaming phenomenon. Twitter users can evoke emotion in 140 characters or less. Bloggers can take creative liberties with a variety of .coms, nets, and orgs, expressing their personal musings on life, politics, health, and a host of other topics. Instagram and Vine offer users micro-glimpses into the lives of others. All of these search engines were created with the intent to share information or to tell stories amongst users. How these stories are told and the ramifications that follow when business is involved is what we will discuss today. Now, while not a narrative in the traditional sense, social media does involve individuals creating, sharing, and even living a variety of stories. Social media opens the floor for long and shorthand storytelling on a variety of topics, both legitimate and not so. Narrative ethics presents a storytelling approach which is where the good is manifested through the action of a given story and the characters who live in the practices of a given narrative structure. This relates to the social media in the way that there are a plethora of opinions and standpoints on any given platform at any point in time. There are multiple goods represented by organizations on a daily basis. If the point of these sites is to share information, then as narrative ethics suggests, these stories offer appropriate lines of action or instantations of the good for lived experience. There are three overall implications plaguing businesses where social media is concerned. First, the Institute of Business Ethics in 2011 believes that there's an integrity risk, and that is the most crucial challenge facing organizations attempting or currently using social media. The problem is seen mostly with corporate blogging or company-based social media accounts. These applications are run or paid by employees for the sole job of furthering the corporate agenda and continuing the narrative of the company to the public. Concerns arise, however, when those given the task of maintaining these applications are unaware or choose to ignore the standards. For example, in March 2011, a Nestle employee took to heart the ranting of a less than satisfied consumer and responded from a personal rather than a professional standpoint on the company Facebook fan page. Since followers of the page knew that it was managed by employees, critics took to the wall and showed their distaste for the employees' actions. In addition to the loyal fans of Nestle, the general public was also allowed to weigh in on this new chapter in Nestle's ongoing narrative because it clearly contradicted with their original storyline. Also, organizations have to be mindful of employees making comments about their jobs on their personal social media profiles. This is the type of behavior is much more rampant and much more difficult to control. The risk of integrity being lost is even greater in this instance due to the amount of exposure one employee can have to the general public via his or her variety of social media profiles. Secondly, social media introduces a new way to market and advertise. Retailers like Apple or Suzuki are famous for their advertisements that depict the human experience. They present a narrative that reinforces the importance of family, friends, and using technology or automobiles to connect people with the various aspects of their lives. Because of the far-reaching arm that social media has, advertising and marketing have taken on new ways to project an organization's narrative in the public space. The problem occurs when, in the preceding situation, an employee or a company representative uses the power of social media to boast their brand's effectiveness and then downplay that of another. Thirdly, social media has affected the way organizations conduct their recruitment practices. In 2011, more than 64% of recruitment specialists admitted to using social media as part of their assessments of employee candidates. Additionally, there are various businesses in place solely to provide social media access for employers to gain information regarding their applicants. The issue of ethics here is clear. Do employers have the right to access what is technically that individual's private life away from the job? Based on my readings, I have a few suggestions for businesses seeking to curb improper use of social media without overstepping their boundaries into the lives of their employees and still keep with their desired narrative for the company's vision. First, companies like Serco Group in the UK and the AT&T Mobility have created an intra-office Facebook of sorts. These sites are reserved for employees to create pictures, profiles, and questionnaires similar to those found on Facebook. They can leave messages on walls and even chat with other employees throughout the company. The sites are also not solely for fun and games. They also allow forums where employees can share information regarding best practices and even share stories. This type of action promotes the good of camaraderie in the workplace. It allows employees to project some portions of themselves to their peers without giving away too much too soon. Similar applications can be given test runs in other companies in order to see if they would run the same way. In 2012, David Craig addressed issues of accountability and acting independently when it comes to posting to social media. Craig initially meant his writings for journalists and the role they play in telling certain ongoing narratives in the public space. When users use the public space for their personal advancement, where should the lines be drawn? Who holds the users accountable for the damage that they may cause when they use the public space? The answer is other users. In the case of professionals, other individuals in the workplace should be mindful of what their counterparts are posting on behalf of the company. Organizations create ongoing narratives over time, and part of adopting the culture of an organization is accepting and sometimes even living out that chosen narrative. Acting independently is more important for all users because it's necessary to know for oneself why a statement or a picture is being posted. It is not enough to simply post by association. Since the public space is meant for the sharing of ideas, it is good for users to be fully aware and conscientious of their reasoning. They should always reflect on their posts and the actions or reactions that will follow. It should be the goal of a user, in this case organizations, to only not post because someone else does. When the public space is being used for sharing, not all ideas will be accepted by everyone, but it is up to the individual to decide if a particular opinion lines up with his or her own personal narrative before standing behind or standing up for any particular value. In terms of social media marketing, does it work or does it not? What we do know is that it does create an opportunity to control and recreate the ongoing narrative that is presented to the public. There are three main ways that this happens for most companies. With brand recognition, brand building is rapidly becoming one of the more powerful uses for social media. Any given company can decide how the world perceives its brand by the websites, company blogs, other social media accounts, and even advertising via other websites as well. Think of those seemingly annoying ads when listening to Pandora or watching shows on Hulu. Whether the viewer realizes it or not, the company is making itself known through that chosen media outlet. And at some point in the future, the viewer will be able to recognize that brand or whatnot it symbolizes. Regarding community, companies using a Facebook page, Twitter handle, or even a blog have the unique opportunity to connect with their consumers in a way no paid market researcher can. Corporate bloggers can be involved with consumers and hear their concerns, likes, and dislikes. This type of information can then be used to adjust or continue to recreate whatever narrative the company is aiming to tell the public. Finally, repeat exposure. Have you ever noticed a sponsored ad or two in your Facebook or Instagram timeline? This is the concept of repeat exposure through social media that some companies are taking advantage of. A simple partnership with the media platform allows any business to strategically place ads on social sites based on hashtags or trending topics, and those users who are interested or invested in that company in one form or another will be exposed to that brand over and over again without even trying. And while the jury is still hung on the issue of companies employing the use of social media as a way to big brother potential employees, the ethical response is twofold. On one hand, it is recommended that employers using social media in this manner should have a clear and open policy regarding their practices. There should be clear and concise criteria that are available to the candidate upon request. It is, for lack of better terminology, unfair for the potential employee to be screened for criteria that they are unaware exists. Some have likened this screening process to be similar to recruiters that screen based on marital status or gender. While those are more serious aspects of a person's life, just like the social media profile, they have very little to do with the person's ability to do the job effectively. On the other hand, it is up to the individual to maintain his or her social media presence in a manner that would be pleasing to the general population. For instance, a recent college graduate, formerly or in some cases currently involved in a particularly whimsical or laissez-faire lifestyle that was broadcasted via Facebook, may want to consider some account maintenance. While the graduating with honors and memberships to boards and clubs is pleasing to an employer, seeing a status that says, "Final suck, I'm getting wasted and I'm just going to wing it tomorrow," may alert employers to behaviors that are not suitable for their work environment. It is important that the narrative a candidate presents is consistent with the narrative they project on the World Wide Web. The conflict between the two may possibly cause the candidate to appear untrustworthy or reckless in the eyes of employers. Finally, Arnett, Hardin, Fritz, and Bell talk of reclaiming the public arena. It is common for the average user, professional or personal, to think that getting their voice heard at all costs and above everyone else is the goal. In actuality, the public space, whether for business or personal, is used most correctly when businesses choose to put the interests of the public arena over their own and consider other standpoints that might exist. This is not to say that their personal opinion is irrelevant, but rather to say that public discourse promotes a more all-encompassing idea of a space that is bigger than me, bigger than the horizon of my vision, a place that makes me a bit uncomfortable at times, but requires me to learn, join, and try to make a difference without ever dominating this sacred space with my ideas alone. And this is what most users, business and professional and personal, should strive for in the case of social media. Whether for entertainment or education, users should be aware that they are not alone in the public space. Social media is not public enemy number one, but with the wrong users and unchecked access, it could become a much bigger problem in the future.